The worst mistake your enemies made was thinking your silence meant weakness. But see, diamonds don't shout, they shine. They thought they broke you, thought walking away from you was a win, thought choosing something shallow over something sacred wouldn't come back to bite them. But now they're haunted by the very light they tried to destroy. Regret doesn't knock on their door anymore. It lives with them. They betrayed someone the universe had blessed. And what did they trade you for? A hollow imitation, a loud distraction, a mask with nothing behind it. And sure, in public they'll smile. They'll post like everything's perfect, like their world didn't collapse the second they lost you. But behind the curtain, the cracks are showing. The fake laughs don't reach their eyes. The silence screams louder at night. Because no matter how good they pretend, it's all for show. The truth? It's chewing them alive. Before we go deeper, hit that like button and subscribe. Not for me, for the message. Every click sends this to another chosen one who needs to remember who they are. YouTube sees that signal, and we make sure the truth spreads where it's needed most. Now let's talk. Welcome, chosen ones. You weren't made like everyone else. Your soul carries weight. Your presence shifts rooms. And some people felt that power, and instead of respecting it, they tried to use it. Or worse, destroy it. But when you're chosen, you're not fighting alone. When they tried to dim your light, they weren't just going up against you, they were resisting the universe. And the universe has a long memory. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. They thought you were done, but they didn't know the storm was still loading. Now they're stuck, pretending, acting like they're winning, laughing loud to drown out the regret. But nothing fills the space you left. Not noise, not distractions, not even the new people they tried to replace you with. Because the power of a chosen one lingers. Your absence isn't empty. It's loud. It follows them. It reminds them. You don't just walk away. You echo. They're haunted by the moment they looked at a diamond and chose dust. And you were never the one who lost. They lost you. And that loss, it's forever. To the chosen one who's been questioning their worth, stop it. Don't you dare forget who you are. Your light didn't make them leave. It exposed the darkness they were hiding, and they couldn't stand next to something that real. You are the lesson they'll never forget. You're the what if that plays in the back of their mind every time they fake a smile. You're the blessing they'll never be able to replace. That kind of mistake, it stains. Let them pretend. Let them post. Let them laugh. You keep rising. Because this isn't revenge. This is revelation. And now they know. They didn't just lose someone. They lost you. And the universe made sure they'll feel that every single day. So if you're still here, it's not by accident. The truth is pulling you in, and chosen ones always feel when something is meant for them. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you've ever been betrayed by someone who swore they'd never switch on you. If you've ever watched them trade a rare soul like yours for something fake, and now you see the regret written all over their silence. This message was sent to wake something up in you. So stay close. Don't scroll. Because what's coming next, it's for you. And it's going to hit deep. Let's get into it. Number 1. They took water for weakness. Now they're drowning without it. You don't lose a chosen one and win at life. You just delay the downfall long enough to feel every inch of the regret. They saw your calm and thought you were weak. They saw your grace under pressure and assumed you had no fire. What they didn't see, what they couldn't see, was the force behind your silence. You weren't quiet because you were scared. You were quiet because the universe doesn't need to scream to rearrange entire destinies. They thought your patience was permission. They thought your loyalty was desperation. They thought your light was soft, but they were dead wrong. You were never soft. You were sacred. You weren't just kind. You were carrying an energy they weren't built to hold. And instead of protecting it, they tried to play with it. And now, they're watching the very thing they fumbled become everything they wish they had. Because you weren't just a good person. You were a blessing disguised as ordinary. You were peace wrapped in pain. You were the safe place in a world that only knows how to take. And they used that. They drained your energy, lied to your face while smiling, betrayed you quietly and loudly, traded something divine for something disposable. But here's what they never counted on, that the universe doesn't sit back and let its chosen suffer forever. At first, the universe lets it unfold, gives them enough rope. But once you're pulled out of the fire, the shift begins. The winds change, the favor reverses, and suddenly they're stuck with the consequences of playing against a system built to protect you. See, when you're chosen, the laws are different. You're not moving through life alone. Everything aligns, timing, people, events. Even your pain was purposeful, but they weren't just hurting you. They were standing in front of a moving train and laughing at the tracks. And now that train has hit, and the silence is deafening. Chosen one, stop blaming yourself for their mistake. Stop thinking you should have done more. You did too much. You gave when you had nothing left. You stayed when your spirit begged to leave. And when you finally walked away, you didn't just save yourself. You reset your entire destiny. So yes, they regret it, deeply. They act like they're fine, like they've moved on. But their spirit knows the truth. Their nights are louder now. Their wins feel empty. They're smiling on the outside, but on the inside, they're choking on your absence. You were the water in a drought, and they spat in the well. Now they're thirsty, and no matter where they go, nothing quenches, because there's only one you, and they'll never be in the same room with that kind of energy again. And let's address the voice inside your head, telling you maybe you were the problem, that maybe your light was too much, that maybe if you had just dimmed it a little more, they would have stayed. Don't you dare. You were made bright for a reason. You were sent here to disrupt every room you enter, not to fit in. If your light made them uncomfortable, that's not your problem. That's their shadow flinching. And instead of rising to meet you, they chose to pull you down. And for what? For someone empty? For something easy? For temporary pleasure that came with a price tag they can't afford? Let them feel it. Let the weight of your absence settle in the cracks of their pretending. Let the regret hollow out the spaces they once filled with noise. Let your silence echo louder than your presence ever did. Because you were never weak. You were chosen. And when the universe chooses someone, there's no turning back. There's no substitute, no replacement, no do-over. You're not just a chapter in their story. You were the plot twist and the lesson. So walk forward, chin high, soul clean. Let them sit in the mess they made. Because one thing's for sure, they didn't just lose a kind soul. They lost the universe's favorite. And now, the universe is answering back. Number 2. They tried to blow out your flame. Now they're lost in the dark. The jealous don't want your crown, they want your collapse. But when they tried to bury you, they didn't realize you were the damn foundation. Let's get this clear from the start. They never wanted to support you. They wanted to replace you. They didn't admire your light. They resented it. You were chosen, radiant, naturally magnetic, and that made their skin itch. Every time you rose, something inside them crumbled. Every win of yours sounded like thunder in their hollow world. They never clapped for real. That support was staged. That love was conditional. And all along, they were waiting, hoping you'd trip. Not because you did anything to hurt them, but because you being you was a constant reminder of everything they weren't. You didn't beg for attention. You commanded it just by existing. You didn't fight to lead. People naturally followed you. That kind of power can't be taught. It's inherited. It's chosen. And when insecure people stand next to someone chosen, they don't grow. They decay. So they tried to control you, not with chains, but with doubt, with snide comments, subtle shade, fake concern masked as advice. They whispered poison dressed as friendship. They fed your insecurities and watched them bloom like weeds. Every time you dimmed yourself to make them comfortable, they celebrated quietly. Because the weaker you looked, the stronger they felt. But the joke's on them. Because no matter how many times you questioned yourself, no matter how many nights you wondered if you were the problem, you still rose. Bruised? Yes. But broken? Never. Because you weren't made in their image. You were designed by alignment. The universe crafted you carefully, planted your soul in the soil of storms, and still made sure you bloomed. And that's what scared them the most. Your resilience, your bounce back, the way you shine harder after every betrayal. So they betrayed you, thinking that cutting you off would somehow elevate them, as if the spotlight would automatically shift to them the second you stepped out of the frame. But what they never realized was this. Your light didn't steal theirs. Your light was their only source. You were the one giving the whole thing life. You were the reason their story had any glow. And the moment they tried to cast you out, the room went cold. They thought removing you would make them the main character. Instead, the whole script fell apart. And now they walk around in circles, trying to mimic what they once stood beside, posting fake wins, smiling in photos while silently drowning in the dark they created. They wanted your place, but couldn't handle your path. They thought if they took your crown, they'd wear it better. But it burns on their head like fire, because it was never theirs to carry. Chosen one, listen. Stop doubting your radiance. Stop editing your energy. Stop shrinking to fit into places that were only ever meant to witness your light, not contain it. Your glow isn't loud, it's legendary. And legendary isn't always loved. It's envied, it's misunderstood, it's attacked, but it endures. You weren't sent here to be liked. You were sent here to lead. And real leadership comes with isolation, with betrayal, with fake smiles and silent knives. But you carry something they can't fake. You are proof that some people were born with a different fire. A fire that doesn't burn out. It transforms everything around it. And the universe? It doesn't abandon its own. It watches. It lets people write their scripts, make their moves, draw their lines. But then it flips the whole board. And those who played against you, now they're facing checkmate with no way out. So when they post their fake piece, let them. When they pretend to be happy, let them. Deep down, they feel it, the emptiness, the dullness, the absence of what you brought. Because the truth is, they didn't just lose someone special. They lost the source, the fuel, the flame. And the universe made damn sure that light isn't coming back. You, chosen one, are done dimming, done folding, done explaining your existence to people who couldn't hold a candle to your presence. Let them stay in the shadows they chose. Let them chase spotlights they can't sustain. Because you are the light. And without you, they're nothing but echoes in a room that used to shine. Number 3. They took the shortcut. Now they're lost with nowhere left to run. They picked the sprint. You trained for the marathon. And now that the finish line is miles away, they're choking on dust while you're just getting started. They thought they were smart, slick even. They played it like a game, thinking life rewards speed over strategy. They wanted it now, the attention, the validation, the illusion of success. So they bet on the loudest option, the easiest high, the flashiest distraction, something that sparkled just enough to trick shallow eyes. And in the process, they walked right past gold, because it wasn't screaming to be seen. You were never in a rush. You knew something they didn't. You understood the difference between fireworks and fire. Fireworks flash, make noise, then disappear. Fire, it stays, it warms, it builds. You weren't chasing moments. You were building meaning, but they mistook your stillness for stagnation, your patience for passivity, your strategy for slowness. That's how shallow minds think. If it doesn't shine immediately, it must not be worth anything. So they mocked your process, looked down on your progress, chose cheap thrills over solid foundations, thought you were falling behind because you weren't showing off. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't even begin to grasp, was that you were constructing something that couldn't be shaken. While they were stacking cards on a windy day, you were laying brick, quietly, consistently, carefully. And now, the storm has come. Those short-term wins they celebrated, gone. The people they impressed, moved on. The things they bragged about, already outdated. The applause, silent. The spotlight, burned out. They're left staring at the ruins of what they swore would last forever, while you're sitting in peace, watching the seeds you planted bloom. They thought the universe rewards shortcuts, but the universe doesn't bless speed. It blesses substance. And you were the one walking with purpose. You were the one grinding when nobody saw. You were the one eating alone while they dined with devils, mistaking chaos for connection. Let's be honest, they didn't leave you for better. They left for faster. And now they're stuck with exactly what they ran toward. Cheap, hollow, and temporary. Like chasing mirages in the desert and blaming the heat when it vanishes. They didn't want to build. They wanted to borrow your energy, your strength, your shine. And when you didn't hand it over on a silver platter, they looked for a shortcut and found an exit. But exits lead out, not up. And now they regret it. Because time exposes everything. The truth, the real, the fake, the loyal, the weak. Time is the great separator between clout and character. And now, while they sit in silence, watching their wins crumble, you're rising with grace they'll never understand. You didn't lose them, they lost you. And not just you as a person. They lost access to a future they were too blind to believe in. You were the long-term payoff they couldn't wait for. You were the high-value stock they sold too soon. And now, you're on the rise. and they're on the sidelines with nothing but what-ifs and whispered regrets. Chosen one, take this in. They didn't just betray you, they betrayed wisdom. They gambled against the universe's timing and thought they could cheat the system. But when someone tries to skip their own growth, they always come back to the place they refused to do the work. And you, yes, you, are the proof that doing it right, doing it slow, doing it with intention, always wins. You weren't just building a life, you were becoming the storm, and now they see it. Too late. Don't go back. Don't explain. Don't soften the glow now that they're squinting. You earned your peace. You paid in silence, in sacrifice, in lonely nights and unseen work. Let them sit with their choices. Let them feel the weight of the crown they thought wasn't worth holding. Because regret is the real payment for people who confuse fast with forever. You stayed the course. And they took a shortcut straight into a dead end. Number 4. They didn't just betray you, they broke their own blessing. When they crossed you, they weren't just walking away from a person. They walked away from their protection, their path, their peace. And now, the universe is making sure they feel every inch of what they lost. Some people don't understand the gravity of betrayal until the weight of it crushes their own path. They think they're just cutting off a person, burning a bridge, making a move. But betrayal hits harder when the person they turned on was the very lifeline keeping their spirit in alignment. That's what they did when they betrayed you. They didn't just throw away love, loyalty, or a bond. They forfeited their place in divine order. They walked out of alignment and stepped straight into chaos. See, you weren't in their life randomly. The universe placed you in their path for a reason. You were the favor they didn't recognize, the anchor they took for granted. You didn't just show up, you were sent. Your presence came with protection, with elevation, with light. But they were too caught up in ego, too busy comparing and competing, too addicted to distractions to realize what they had. So they chose betrayal. Thought they were getting ahead, thought they could trade substance for spectacle and still keep the same favor. But betrayal has a spiritual price tag, and the cost is always alignment. The second they turned on you, the universe took its hands off their life. What was once flowing now feels blocked. What once made sense now falls apart. They thought they were choosing freedom, but they chose misdirection. They thought they were rising, but they were actually stepping off their own path. And now they feel it. Not always in big, loud ways. Sometimes it's subtle. A sense of heaviness, doors that won't open, blessings that feel out of reach, peace that keeps slipping through their fingers. That's what happens when you betray someone chosen, someone sent to elevate you. The betrayal echoes into their future. It stains their timeline. The favor that followed them when they were connected to you, gone, reassigned, redirected to you. Because that's what happens when someone betrays a blessing. The universe doesn't just punish, it repositions. They watch from afar now, watching you glow, watching you align, watching you rise, and it burns. Because deep down, their spirit remembers what their ego destroyed. They know they were better when you were around. Healthier, calmer, more balanced. Not because you were perfect, but because your energy was pure. Because your presence came with alignment they couldn't earn on their own. And karma, it doesn't forget. It may wait, but it never skips. Every seed of disloyalty they planted, it's sprouting now, in failed connections, in inner restlessness, in sleepless nights, in the silence that screams, "You messed up." That's the weight of betraying someone with a clean heart. The consequences are spiritual, not just emotional. They thought walking away from you was just personal, but it was cosmic. And to you, chosen one, stop questioning your worth because they couldn't carry the responsibility of having access to your energy. Stop wondering what you did wrong. You were the right thing in the wrong hands. And their hands weren't clean enough to hold something so rare. Your light didn't cause the betrayal. It revealed their darkness, and the universe saw it all. You weren't being punished when they left. You were being protected. You weren't abandoned. You were upgraded, because your path required peace. And their presence was only ever going to delay it. Now the roles have flipped. You walk with alignment. You speak and things move. You think it and it arrives. That's not luck. That's the universe affirming. You stayed loyal when it counted. You passed the test they failed. And now they have to live with that. So let them watch. Let them sit in the distance they created. Let them feel the silence that came when your energy walked out of their life. They didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves that could have been blessed beside you. And that kind of loss, there's no reset button for that. Only regret. Number 5. They didn't understand the assignment, so life handed them a lifetime of regret. Some people were sent to rise with you, but chose to compete instead. The test wasn't just how they treated you. It was whether they'd recognize what you really were. They failed, and the universe marked their paper in silence. Let's call it what it is. They didn't fumble a relationship. They fumbled a divine opportunity. You weren't some random connection. You weren't an extra in their little story. You were the assignment, the test, the key that could have unlocked a better version of them. A mirror, a catalyst, a chosen one placed in their life to elevate the entire trajectory of their path. And they blew it. Not because you asked for too much, but because they came in with too little. Too little awareness, too little gratitude, too little depth. They mistook a divine placement for just another person. A test sent with love, and they answered it with ego. They were so focused on their own hunger, their own image, their own status. They didn't realize the very thing they were craving was standing right in front of them. You. You showed up real, solid, steady. You gave what couldn't be faked. Loyalty, energy, wisdom, love. You didn't come to play games. You came to shift lives, but they didn't want a shift. They wanted control. They wanted attention. They wanted the perks of your presence without the responsibility of honoring it. And that's where they failed. Because when the universe sends someone chosen into your life, there's always an assignment wrapped in that connection. It might look like friendship, romance, partnership, but underneath it all, it's a test of character, of vision, of humility. And when they chose manipulation over mindfulness, betrayal over balance, ego over elevation, they didn't just hurt you, they disqualified themselves. Now, they're living the consequences, not the obvious ones, not instant karma in flashing lights, but the kind that shows up quietly. Disconnection, restlessness, an endless cycle of replacements that never measure up, an inner knowing that they had the answer in their hands and still failed the question. That's the kind of regret you don't shake off. That's the kind of failure that follows you. Because here's what they never realized. Not every connection is meant to last, but some are meant to change your life. And yours was one of those. You were the blessing that would have built them, the bridge to healing, the blueprint to better. You were the wisdom they prayed for, just not in the packaging they expected. So they mistook divine timing for inconvenience. They confused purpose with pressure. They didn't understand that the test wasn't about how easy you made life for them. It was about whether they could handle being in the presence of someone real, someone chosen, someone who was sent not to fix them, but to awaken them. And awakening is uncomfortable. That's why they ran. But now they're haunted by what could have been. Not just the bond, but the becoming. They're not just mourning the loss of you. They're mourning the version of themselves that could have been born in your light. That version will never exist now. That timeline is sealed. You were their wake-up call, and they hit snooze. Now they're scrambling to recreate meaning, chasing clarity, trying to put together pieces of a puzzle that no longer fits. Because when someone fails a divine assignment, the next chapter doesn't open until they learn the lesson. And this one hurts. Meanwhile, you've moved forward. Not because you didn't care, but because you were the assignment, not the student. Your job was to show up, hold space, and shine truth. You did that. With grace, with heart, with power. And now you're being elevated. Not because you weren't tested, but because you passed. You stayed authentic in the face of fake. You stayed grounded in the face of betrayal. To the chosen ones reading this, hear me clearly. Stop blaming yourself for their failure. Stop shrinking your purpose because they misunderstood your presence. You weren't too much. You were exactly right for the elevation they asked for. They just weren't ready. The test wasn't about you. It was for them. And they failed. So let them sit with the weight of that. Let them scroll through their distractions, trying to replace the irreplaceable. Let them rewrite history in their heads, trying to feel okay about what they destroyed. But know this, the universe doesn't recycle lessons for people who haven't learned. Until they face what they did, they'll keep running in circles. But you move different now, lighter, freer, aligned. Because once the test is done, once the mission is complete, the chosen don't chase closure. They rise. Number 6, they sold the future for a feeling, and now they're left with ashes. Some trade a kingdom for a kiss and never recover, because legacy doesn't knock twice, and when you slam the door on destiny, it locks from the other side. Let's strip away the fluff and get to the raw truth. They didn't just betray you, they bankrupt their own bloodline. This wasn't just a mistake in love or loyalty. This was a soul-level collapse. A choice that didn't just break a connection, it broke the future. Because you weren't just another relationship. You weren't a phase, a thrill, or a passing presence. You were legacy. You were purpose. You were alignment walking, and when the universe sends someone like you into another person's life, it's not about convenience, it's about elevation. You were the blueprint for a better future, the calm after chaos, the steady hand in a storm they created. You weren't just their person, you were their path. But they couldn't see it. Because lust is loud, legacy is quiet. Lust screams in the moment, flashes, seduces, manipulates, but legacy waits. It requires patience, vision, discipline, and let's be real, they didn't have it. They chose easy over eternal. They picked fast over forever. They sold a dynasty for a dopamine hit and called it love. They betrayed something sacred for something shiny, traded a real one for a thrill that already expired. And now, all that's left is silence, emptiness, a haunting kind of regret that doesn't fade with time. It deepens. Because the more life moves forward, the more they realize just how much they destroyed with one reckless decision. This wasn't just about lust in the physical sense. It was lust for ego, attention, validation. They craved being seen, being wanted, being praised. And when your presence required them to grow, to elevate, to show up, they panicked. Because the truth is, legacy demands maturity. And they were still out here trying to play God with paper crowns. So they let go of the very thing that would have built them into someone they were too afraid to become. And now they wander. They reach for new hands that don't hold the same peace. They kiss lips that don't know their soul. They wake up next to bodies that don't feel like home. Because they were never looking for connection. They were looking for distraction. Something to fill the void. The void that you left. The one they swore didn't exist. But legacy doesn't forget. And the universe doesn't play when it comes to people who carry purpose. You were the generational shift, the one that breaks curses, the one that heals bloodlines, the one that builds something from nothing. That kind of energy, it's rare, and they threw it away like it was replaceable. But you can't replace foundation with fantasy and expect the structure to stand. So now their path is broken, their peace is fragmented, their relationships shallow, because you don't recover easily from fumbling a chosen one, especially when that chosen one was sent not just to love you, but to change the course of your life. And to you, don't ever question your worth because they couldn't see it. That wasn't a reflection of you. That was a reflection of how small they were willing to think. You were playing chess with the universe, and they were busy flipping coins. They didn't understand that choosing you was choosing a future that would have blessed them, their children, their children's children. That's what legacy means. It's not about comfort. It's about what you build beyond yourself. You were part of a bigger picture, but they only saw what was in the frame right now. So they chased the flame. And now they're surrounded by smoke, wondering where the fire went. Let them wonder. Let them scroll through empty conversations and replay moments in their head where they thought they made the right choice. Let them sit in silence while your name echoes in rooms they can't enter anymore. Let them feel the weight of what could have been, but will never be. Because legacy waits for no one. If they couldn't hold you down in the storm, they don't deserve a seat at your table in the sun. Keep building, keep rising, keep choosing depth in a world obsessed with surface. Because the next chapter isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about proving that you were always right. You were the root. They chose the wind. Now they're scattered. And you're planted. Thriving, solid, eternal. Number 7, you reflected their truth, and they chose to smash the mirror. Some people don't hate you, they hate what they see in themselves when you walk into the room. Let's get straight to it. You were never the problem, you were the proof. Proof of what they could be if they had the discipline, the courage, the honesty. You weren't there to hurt them. You were there to reveal them. But the problem with holding up a mirror is this. People who aren't ready to face themselves will always try to destroy the reflection. You didn't wear a mask. You weren't pretending. You showed up as your full, raw, grounded self. No filter, no facade. And that scared them. Because in a world built on illusions, the real always feels like a threat. Your light exposed their shadows. Your confidence magnified their insecurity. Your kindness made their bitterness stand out like rust on gold. You didn't have to say a word. Your energy spoke. And every time you stepped into their world, it reminded them of everything they hadn't healed, hadn't grown from, hadn't admitted. You didn't challenge them with cruelty. You challenged them with truth. And truth is sharp. It cuts deep. But it also frees, if you're brave enough to face it. And they weren't. So instead of choosing growth, they chose resentment. Instead of learning from you, they made you the villain in the story they were too afraid to rewrite. Because let's be honest, they weren't looking for reflection. They were looking for comfort, for someone to agree with their limitations, to validate the mask they wear for the world. But you didn't come to validate the fake. You came to awaken the real. And that made them flinch. They couldn't stand that you didn't need approval to be who you are, that you didn't perform, that you didn't play small to make others feel tall. You simply existed, fully, without apology. And that kind of authenticity, it breaks false personas in half. You were the mirror that didn't distort, the reflection that showed them the raw truth, and they hated it. Not because you judged them, but because they judged themselves in your presence, and they weren't ready to sit with what they saw. They wanted your shine without facing their own shadows. They wanted your light without confronting their own darkness. So they projected. They accused you of being too much, too intense, too honest, too sensitive. But what they really meant was, you make me feel exposed. And instead of doing the work to heal, they turned on the one person who had the courage to reflect reality. And now they're stuck in the same internal prison you tried to pull them out of, still performing, still pretending, still haunted by the version of themselves they saw in your presence, but never had the strength to become. And you moved on. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you understood that their rejection wasn't rejection at all. It was resistance. They weren't ready. And that's not your burden to carry. You don't dim your mirror for people who can't face their own reflection. You don't shrink for comfort. You don't twist yourself into a softer version just to be accepted. You stand, you reflect, you reveal. That's your gift. That's your power, and not everyone is ready for it. But here's the truth. People remember mirrors, even when they pretend they don't. They remember the way your presence made them feel seen, and even if they run from it, the image doesn't disappear. It stays. It lingers. It follows them into every shallow friendship, every fake connection, every lie they tell themselves to avoid growth. You planted seeds they can't unsee. So let them walk. Let them scoff. Let them tell the world they're better without you, while quietly missing the clarity you brought to their chaos. Because while they're still avoiding the truth, you became it. And that kind of power, it doesn't need validation. It just is. You were never there to destroy them. You were there to wake them up. They just chose to keep sleeping. Number 8. You were the blueprint. Now they're stuck with cheap copies that keep falling apart. They didn't want to build with you because real construction takes work. So they ran toward replicas. Now they're living in houses with no foundation, wondering why everything keeps collapsing. Let's call it what it really was. You were the original, the source, the mold, the blueprint they'll spend the rest of their life trying and failing to duplicate. But instead of recognizing your value, they ran toward convenience, toward simplicity, toward something that didn't demand they grow. You didn't just show up, you showed the way. Your energy was a map to something greater. You were the example, the framework, the guide. And the worst part? You gave it freely. Not because you had to, but because you loved from a place of abundance, not lack. You didn't gatekeep your magic. You offered it. You poured into them, built beside them, dreamed with them. But what did they do? They didn't see the architecture. They only saw what was unfinished. They focused on the dust from the construction, not the empire you were building. And because they lacked vision, they mistook the process for the problem. They wanted the final product without the blueprint, the reward without the work. And when it didn't come fast enough, they bailed. They didn't realize you were the design. And now they're out here trying to patch together bits and pieces of what they lost, copying your style, mimicking your moves, quoting your wisdom secondhand like it's theirs, trying to build your structure with off-brand materials. But there's one thing they forgot. You can't manufacture essence. You can't replicate purpose. You can't print a soul. You were rare, one of one. And once they fumbled the original, that was it. Now they chase pale reflections of everything you were. People who dress like you, talk like you, post like you, but don't feel like you. And they know it. Deep down, they know it. That's the curse of betraying a blueprint. Everything after feels counterfeit. Nothing fits, nothing lasts, and nothing compares. And no, it's not about ego. It's about energy. Your presence carried weight, vision, integrity. You didn't just love, they leveled up under your love. You didn't just speak, you sparked things in them they didn't even know they had. And that scared them, because once you've been touched by something real, fake feels unbearable. And now they're stuck pretending they're fulfilled, while quietly dying of spiritual hunger. But chosen one, hear this. Just because they couldn't recognize the value doesn't mean you were less valuable. Their inability to see has nothing to do with your ability to shine. Some people have tunnel vision, and some things are just too rare to be processed by shallow eyes. They weren't ready for the weight of the real. They wanted fast and easy. You were deep and divine. And that kind of energy doesn't fit into everyone's story. It rewrites it. You were meant to be a breakthrough, a shift, a whole new way of being. But they chose to stay the same. And now you've moved on, still glowing, still building, still rising, and they're stuck in cycles, playing dress-up with knockoffs, trying to find what they had in someone else. But there is no someone else. There's only one you. So don't look back. Don't wonder what they're doing. Don't ask if they've learned their lesson. Because the truth is, when someone fumbles the blueprint, they have to live with the cracks in everything they build afterward. The universe doesn't keep handing out originals to people who break them. Let them live in the house they built with borrowed plans. Let them try to fill your absence with noise. Let them chase shadows and echoes. Because your legacy, your framework, you're the original manuscript in a world full of photocopies. You were never meant to be understood by people with blurry vision. You were meant to be honored by builders, by visionaries, by those who know what it means to create from the ground up. They didn't see it. They never will. And now, they live with that. Number 9. They bet against you. Now they're paying the price. They thought leaving you behind was a power move, but the only thing they powered up was your rise. They really thought it would break you, that walking away, rejecting you, underestimating you, would somehow stop your momentum, as if your power came from them, as if your worth depended on being chosen by people who were never qualified to hold your presence. They bet against you like you were the gamble, but the truth? You were the jackpot, and now they're watching you win, hands empty, heart heavy, praying they played it different. Every time they threw shade, you grew in silence. Every door they slammed became a new path. You didn't fall off. You fell back, recalibrated, and came back stronger than ever. While they were mocking you, you were mastering yourself. While they were busy choosing chaos, you were building empires in peace. Now look, the rooms they thought they'd own, closed. The attention they chased, gone. The support they assumed was forever, evaporated. Because the universe doesn't reward betrayal, and it damn sure doesn't bless those who bet against the chosen. You were never competing, never chasing, never performing. You were becoming, quietly, consistently, unapologetically. And now they have to watch from the shadows. Watch you rise, watch you thrive, watch you walk through doors they'll never even see again. They didn't just lose a person. They lost their chance to stand next to power. And that loss? It's permanent. Number 10. Their betrayal built the beast. Now they regret waking it up. They didn't break you, they built you, because pressure doesn't destroy diamonds, it reveals them. They thought they were ending you, thought the betrayal would leave you shattered, stuck, begging for closure. But instead, it cracked something open, something powerful, something unstoppable. They didn't witness your fall, they triggered your evolution. That pain, it sharpened you. Their disloyalty, it taught you discernment. You didn't just survive, you transformed. You took the knife they left in your back and used it to cut ties, cut limits, cut fear. They thought they were writing your ending, but they unknowingly penned your origin story. They didn't expect you to rise, not like this, not this fast, not this fierce. But that's what chosen ones do. We take betrayal and alchemize it into purpose. We turn scars into strategy, wounds into wisdom. And now, you walk different, talk different, move different. You're thriving, building, expanding, glowing, and they're stuck, watching you win with the same heart they tried to break. That's the kind of regret that never fades. Let them watch. Because your growth isn't just revenge, it's revelation. A reminder that chosen ones don't crumble. We ascend. So thank them, not for the love, but for the betrayal, because it activated your power. And now, they'll never have access to it again. And now, let this sink in. Everything they did to break you only built you stronger. Their betrayal wasn't your ending, it was your awakening. You didn't just survive it, you transformed through it. Let them regret, let them watch. You're not looking back, you're rising forward. If this message spoke to your soul, like this video, subscribe for more truth that hits deep. And drop the number 77 in the comments to claim your growth. Share this with another chosen one who needs to be reminded of their power. The universe doesn't make mistakes, and neither did you. Keep rising. You're just getting started.